Solar panels, lithium batteries, generators? Do you really need that for your RV? We're going to talk about that and much more in this episode of Travels with Delaney. Welcome back, everyone. My name's Patrick, and if it's your first time here at Travels with Delaney, welcome. In this episode, I want to try to answer a question that I get all the time, which is, should we get solar, should we upgrade our batteries, and should we buy a generator? Now, before we dive into that topic, make sure you stay all the way to the end of this video because I'm going to share with you a little device that I think you might find useful in your RV. All right, let's dive right in and start by asking the question, do you even need any of that? Before we can even begin to consider whether we need solar, lithium, or generators, we really have to ask the question, what kind of camping do you plan on doing? Now, if you're going to be one of those RVers that prefers full hookups or even to always have electrical power at your campsite, then honestly, you don't need solar, lithium, or a generator because you're always going to be plugged into an electrical source which is going to provide plenty of power for your trailer. And ultimately, when you talk about things like batteries, solar panels, and generators, we're talking about providing power. And if you're plugged into typical 30 amp or 50 amp or whatever your trailer's rated for, you're going to be good to go, and that honestly kind of ends this discussion for you. But if you think that you're going to be dry camping or boondocking or whatever you want to call it, to where you're not going to be able to plug your trailer in, then you might want to consider one of those three options or possibly all three of those options. Now, I will say this, if you say at this point, Patrick, I think most of the time I'm going to be plugged in at a campground, but there may be that occasional night where we're traveling and we can't get to the campground and we want to stay at a Walmart, a Cracker Barrel, or something along that lines. I'm not going to be able to plug in. Do I need to upgrade my systems like solar, batteries, or generator? And I would probably say no, not for one night. Here's the thing. RVs come with a battery typically, at least one, some may have two. And that battery is designed to provide power to your trailer for certain items when you're not plugged into shore power. So what can you actually power with that battery? Well, it's going to probably power things like your lights in your trailer. It may power things like if you have overhead fans for ventilation. It may even power things like your television and your radio. But don't worry, you may be thinking, hey, what about my refrigerator? Well, there's a pretty good chance that you have a refrigerator that can run on propane, so if you're not plugged in, you can switch over to propane for it. You can also power your water heater when you're not plugged into shore power with propane. So, will that battery that came with your trailer be enough to get you through one night at a Walmart or a Cracker Barrel? The answer is probably yes, and here's why. Most likely you're not pulling in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If it's a travel day, you're going to pull in later in the evening, so you really just need enough battery power to get you through the evening until the next morning when you head on out to head towards your final destination. And so the only things you're probably going to running off that battery at night is probably some lights in your trailer, maybe your TV, your radio, maybe a fan, things like that. And then the next morning when you head out, your battery will get a little bit of charge from your tow vehicle if it's wired up to do so. But understand, tow vehicles are not designed to bring a battery back from, let's say, 50% all the way up on a short drive. Your car is always going to take care of itself first, so most of the power is going to the battery in the vehicle. Anything that's left over will trickle on back to the trailer. But once you get to that campsite where you can plug in, once you plug in, then your converter has capabilities to charge your battery back up and you're going to be fine. So again, if it's just an occasional one night, I would say no, you don't need any of that. But if you're like us and you want to go out for 2, 3, 4, 5+ nights without being plugged into shore power, then I think we need to start looking at things like solar, lithium batteries, potentially, and generators. So let's start with solar. Do you need solar panels, and what kind of solar panel do you need? Now, if you're just thinking you're going to go a couple of nights, then a portable solar panel might be the way to go. Currently, we carry with us a 100-watt Renogy folding suitcase style solar panel. Now I have a port that I put in on the side of our trailer where I can literally just plug that solar panel in and then I can move it around to find the sun. Some people actually prefer the suitcase style because they can try to locate the sun if they're staying in trees like we're here right now. However, some people prefer to have them mounted on the roof of their trailer, just like we have here on our nuCamp Tab 400. Now that's a 194 watt flexible panel that we had mounted at the factory on our trailer. Now, one of the reasons I really like having solar right on my trailer is anytime we have long travel days and it's sunny out, I look at that as free power. I can get my batteries fully charged while we're going down the road if we have those long sunny stretches. And this particular panel that nuCamp installed for me actually works even when it's cloudy out. Now it's not going to get the full 194 watts, but it will still get some energy out of those gray skies, which will help with our batteries. The real downside to having the solar installed right on the trailer, though, is if you're in trees like this, then you may not be getting the full potential of those panels. And with those portable style of solar panels, you can actually kind of move them around and find for those openings where there might be some sun. How we use our solar may be different than the way a full-time RVer would use their solar. Our solar is really just designed to pull charge back up on our batteries as we run them down. A full-time RVer may have enough solar on the roof of their trailer that they never even lose charge on their batteries throughout the day because they can generate enough power to run almost everything in their RV, including their AC. Now, our solar and our inverter is not hooked up to our AC unit, so we don't even attempt to try to run that off of the 12-volt system. But it could be a possibility if you're willing to invest enough money into a solar system and battery bank big enough to actually run an AC unit. Speaking of battery banks, let's go ahead and talk about lithium batteries next. Now, I have a whole video where I discuss what our options were when we upgraded this trailer's battery, and I'll go ahead and link that up above for you if you want to check that one out. What I want to address here is I get a question a lot of, Patrick, do you think we need to go ahead and upgrade our trailer's battery to lithium like you did? And the truth is, probably most of you, the answer is going to be no. Unless you plan on doing long-term boondocking or dry camping, then probably you don't need to go to lithium. There's going to be a lot cheaper alternatives. You may, if you're currently using a deep cycle lead acid battery, may want to consider going to one of the AGM units. Now, the AGM batteries are great because they're a sealed unit, they're low maintenance, and they will do a pretty good job. So what you may want to consider is just upgrading to something like an AGM and maybe adding a couple of them to increase your amp hours. Now, for us, because we're planning to go to Alaska next summer and we love going out for days, if not weeks at a time, boondocking, we decided to go ahead and make the investment in lithium. Now, the real advantage to lithium batteries over the lead acid batteries is lead acid batteries really can only be used down to about 50% of their capacity in order to maintain a longer battery life with them. So that means if you have a 100 amp hour lead acid battery, you're only going to get about 50 amp hours out of that battery. Whereas with the lithium batteries, you can pretty much use up all 100 amp hours on a 100 amp hour lithium battery. And even if I run it down to zero, the Battle Born batteries have built-in battery protection, and I don't have to worry about ruining my very expensive batteries. Now, that's the big factor. When you go to lithium, you're talking some serious cash. A lithium battery is going to run you close to $1,000. Compare that with an AGM of similar size or output, it could potentially be several $100s more. And with lithium, I had to upgrade the converter in this trailer so that it would be able to fully charge those lithium batteries. Now, am I glad we went to lithium? Absolutely. For us, I think it makes complete sense. But $2,500 to do the entire install with two of those 100 amp hour batteries, that's some serious change. And you want to make sure that you're really going to get the full use out of those batteries if you're going to invest that kind of money. So I'm going to say for most of you, lithium probably isn't the smartest way to go in terms of bang for your buck. But if you plan on doing lots of boondocking, it might be something to consider. I'm really excited to start seeing some manufacturers like Lance offering an option to go ahead and upgrade to lithium at the time of the purchase of your trailer. And typically anytime you do something like that at time of purchase, and that would also include solar, typically it's a lot cheaper to do it from the manufacturer than to add it aftermarket. So definitely something to consider if it's an option at that point. But if you're just looking at an aftermarket install, then lithium is one of those things you really want to think about before you invest that kind of money. One final thought on the whole battery conversation is, how are you going to use your batteries? Now, I know I've already talked about that a little bit, but it definitely plays into your decision about, do you need to upgrade the amp hours of your battery system, regardless of what type of battery you're using. Now, we have installed a 1500 watt inverter here in our Tab 400, along with a single outlet that is powered from that inverter. And basically what that inverter is doing is it's taking 12 volt power and converting it to 110. And we did that mainly for the purpose of allowing Patty, my wife, to be able to use her hair dryer in the mornings when we are out dry camping with no electrical hookups. We also can plug in our microwave if we ever want to heat up something or defrost something, and that's what that is for. Now, you do not need lithium or solar to have an inverter in your trailer, but just understand, the longer you run that inverter and you're drawing off of your batteries, the lower your battery level is going to go. That's where, again, things like solar and generators can come in handy as far as bringing the power back up until you can actually get your trailer someplace and plug it in to allow the internal charging system to take hold. If you're getting any value out of this video, we'd sure appreciate it if you'd smash that thumbs up button. Also, in the comment section down below, let me know what you're doing with your RV. Do you like to go dry camping? Do you use solar? How big of a battery bank? And what's your thoughts on generators? All right, now back to our video. There's nothing more controversial on a YouTube channel or an RV forum than the generator. Bum, bum, bum. Now, why might you need a generator? Because a lot of people don't like them. They think they're noisy. They think they're loud and obnoxious. And the only time we use a generator now that we have solar is if we actually need to run the AC. And even then, we're not running it all day. We just run it long enough for the AC to take some of the heat and humidity out of the trailer, and then we go ahead and shut down our generator. Now, before we had solar, we did use the smaller generator to actually keep the batteries charged when we were out boondocking. And typically the way I would do that to try to be less invasive if there was anybody around us was I would run it for maybe an hour in the morning, and then I'd run it for an hour in the evening. And that would give us enough charge on our batteries to get us through to the next day. But now that we have the solar, we don't use the generator at all for charging the batteries. We will carry this generator with us on long trips, but honestly, we very rarely actually have to use it. If you are going to go the route of a generator, there are lots of different generators out there on the market. You're going to find these smaller ones that are in the 2,000 watt range, and then you're going to find these bigger ones that are over 3,000 watts. Now, one of the big differences is the weight and the size between these two. Obviously, there's the difference of how much can it power, and cost is also going to be a factor. Now, nobody disputes that Honda is the king of the generator when it comes to camping. They are super quiet, but they're also one of the most expensive on the market. I have a full playlist about this Predator from Harbor Freight generator, and you can check that out. I'll link that up above for you. But what we found was we actually prefer a little bit bigger one. I don't really like the fact that it takes up twice as much space and it's twice as heavy. But what I do like is we can run everything in our trailer off of this if we absolutely had to. And with this particular generator, it's actually super quiet. It's actually so quiet that I can talk in my normal voice and you can still hear me. So do you need solar, lithium, generators? Well, only you can answer that question, and it's all really going to depend on how you plan on using your RV. I'm going to guess for the vast majority of you, if you're headed to an RV park with electricity, then nope, you probably don't need any of it. But if you do plan on doing those extended boondocking trips, then you might want to consider one or a combination of those items. Now, I promised you a bonus item at the end of the video, and this is it. This is the O-Polar USB fan. Now, when we're boondocking, this is how we move air in this trailer because it takes little to no power, and it actually does a really nice job of moving air. It's super quiet, it's lightweight, doesn't take up a lot of space, and like I said, it just plugs into a USB port. So we can actually run this either off of the USBs in the trailer, or I carry one of those little power packs where you plug USB items into it and use that, and that really does keep us cool and helps to save power. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them down below in the comment box here on YouTube. Share with us how you use your trailer and what of any of those items you might be considering or using yourself. Until next time, everybody, we'll see ya on down the road. Good night.